his people, praise of all his saints, even unto the children of Yeshua, a people near unto him. Praise ye Yahweh. Monument, 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 monument. Just give us freedom. That's all we need. Congratulations, you have graduated. This level of matrix, you're acculturation. No, you couldn't wait. The program creator, that's what you were made for. That's why you were brainwashed. You are alpha, beta, zeta, programmed by your creator, and you call him your savior. What if you from bondage? Have if you choose of knowledge?
Peace, 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 and beautiful day to you all. Of course, we are here with another Midday Affirmative. I am Ema Yakira-Eden from the Anu Life Global Ministries, and I just want to welcome you. Thank you for joining today. Thank you for making the choice to be present in this space, in this moment. And if you don't mind, share this live so that those that don't ordinarily come into the space have the opportunity to experience the journey we're going to take together. So to give you a moment to do that, I will just greet those that I see in the chat. So thank you for joining Abba Ross Kush, peace Imanaya, peace Sovereign Eats, and peace Aki Darian. Also, give thanks and peace to Anu Radio, who's supporting on the back end. So I appreciate that. And I do see more. I could see how many are watching. So even if you're watching and you don't intend to actively engage, still greet the space so that we have a sense of who's watching and listening and taking this all in. Okay, if you like. So before we begin, of course, I have to open this space by acknowledging the masterful architect, our creator, the one who creates all, and really just offering thanks for one, breath, life, and the opportunity for us to build and be restored, right? That idea of building and destroying comes by way of our creator who first formed us, right? In their image. They formed us in their image. And so I offer gratitude for that. Definitely thank you to Chief Yuga, Chief Jegna of Anu Life Global Ministries for holding this vision and for curating this space for us all to grow within. So with that, I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to jump right in and talk about Peace Aki Zach, Peace Anu Radio. Let's see. I think I have everyone else. Of course, just some housekeeping things. If you are interested in jumping in and joining the dialogue, please feel free to hit the link up at the top and pop right in. Otherwise, engage in the chat. Yeah, that works just fine. The topic, right, or the title is actually Pride Before the Fall, right? Pride cometh before the fall. And I can't even tell you where it came from. I actually didn't have a topic and was kind of like, what am I going to talk about? And Chief has said it on here on, addressing some of us during these live sessions that and I've repeated it. I know several of us have repeated it. There is this idea that we get anxious or we get worried about how we're going to deliver a message. And, we come with all of these notes, all packaged and prepared as if it is the I, the self, the me that's solely responsible and completely owning what's being brought forward. And that's not the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that um, I've been poured into, and my creator has fashioned this opportunity for us to kind of dip the ladle in and pour out. So with that, the title came this dawning. But what's beautiful about um, being a member of Honor Life Global Ministries is that the teaching and the instruction and the guidance and the deliberation is constant. And so, although the title and the theme came this dawning or late during the night, the notes and the information and the infrastructure by which I'll deliver the message today has actually already been created and formed, right? So that's the beauty of being studious and being in a working community. Peace, Luca, peace, Master Menelek. Thank you for being in this space. So that's the title. But of course, as I begin to look at my notes and to explore precepts and references and cross references, what I realize is that that is not the scriptural statement, right? And often we find that we may be quoting adages and we may think that, yeah, I think this is in scripture. I think maybe perhaps, right? But you can't get to the chapter or verse because that is not what's said. So we're going to actually dig into what is said in Proverbs as it pertains to pride and the fall and what happens there. But before we do, I want to just acknowledge the references that I'll be pulling from. So I'll be pulling some scriptural references. So, of course, Proverbs 16, verses 17, 18, and 19. Matthew 7, and I'll be pulling from verses 13 and 14. And I'll also be playing, if we have time, I'm going to play a snippet from Chief Yuya's Sabbath Insight, which was called Pride and Bloodline Redemption. So I'm sure that'll make its way into the chat so that you'll have access to the link. But in Pride and Bloodline Redemption, Chief actually defines pride, talks about Western pride versus spiritual pride, and takes us fully through the value of humility and redemption, how we come to redeem or even clean up our bloodline. We're not going to get into the latter portion, of course, because we're here for like an hour. But I do encourage you, if you haven't listened to that segment before, please go back and listen to it because it is filling and full of a lot of phenomenal information. Before we jump in, I do want to make a few announcements. Peace, Ema Sequoia, thank you for joining. Peace, Margie Marie Art, thank you for joining. But before we jump in, like I said, I wanted to share some updates, and we'll share them again at the end. So we have coming really soon the Anu Retreat. And I know we have a beautiful flyer for that. So the Anu Retreat will be August 24th through August 28th in New Orleans. There's actually that little beautiful orange circle is actually a QR code. So while it's up on the screen, go right ahead and scan that. If you're new, I know we're sharing that information. And for those of you who are watching that are not new, you are welcome to join us on our summer retreat. The cost is quite nominal and it includes everything but you getting yourself there. So accommodations, food, activities. If you listen to the most recent podcast by Chief Yuya, he actually shares some of the amazing things that we'll be doing. So if you haven't, I'm not going to list them, but go back and listen to episode 92, which is talking about eldership and the responsibility therein. And it is the Titus chapter, Titus 2, which I happen to love Titus 2 in particular. So you can, find yourself over there and listen to that as well. But definitely, if you're contemplating or on the fence about coming to the retreat, definitely come. Go on to the Honor Life Global Ministries website to review the FAQs and to get additional information as well. So with that, we're going to, let's see. Peace Akotiafe. I think that's everybody that's in the chat. So I'm going to jump right in. I will say there was a backstory, right, beyond just having a journey. There was a backstory. A few strongs ago, during for those that don't know, and you should know by now, in Anu we often reference study session. So every Wednesday, every Yom Ravi, we have a study session, which is internal. So it is a time for us to build and to deliberate and to really refine how we look at the world, how we see ourselves in proximity to everything around us. And a few strongs ago, Chief Yuya actually began talking about the idea of pride in the context of what we were already discussing. And what he said was that we should remember that pride is actually us reflecting that Yah has nothing further to teach us. So that, I was like, what? Oh my goodness. Who wants that, right? Who wants to say, nah, I'm good. Like, don't nudge me, don't instruct me, don't guide me. You have nothing further to give me. Which means, right, or I took it to mean that I'm perfect, I'm perfected, and that everything I need is swirling around inside of my own head, and I no longer need any sort of additional instruction. And nothing can be further from the truth. But as we go through this dialogue, I want you to keep that in the forefront of your mind. That pride, right? Pride is given this narrative that the Creator no longer has anything to give me or to teach me or to instruct me. And consider your acts of pridefulness. Maybe it was just today or yesterday, and what it looks like. Because sometimes when we're looking at ourselves, I know when I'm looking at myself, I don't see much, right? Which is not even funny. It's often easier, I'll say, to see someone else. But we really, and thank you for the like, share, and subscribes. Absolutely. We really have to be able to be humble enough to receive that reflection when it's given to us by our heads, by, if you're part of a spiritual community, by the head of that community, and by your sisters and brothers. So that's a clue. We're going to get into, defining some concepts as well as some actionable steps, right? Like, okay, we discussed this, but what do I do with the information after that? So like I said, in the Sabbath Insight on Pride and Bloodline Redemption, Chief actually states that pride is literally and spiritually the biggest downfall of the original people from the beginning. So if we think scripturally, and I know we make jest of this whole, the chosen people will be placed in bondage, and then they'll, be there. Yah will come and say, okay, we're going to try this again. And they're given wealth and they're given prominence and they're given these things to really out of love. And I know I touched on that in my last podcast. We're giving these things out from a place of love. Let me show you how much I love you. Let me show you how valued you are by me, right? Because the charge is to serve Yah, but and to teach and to build up the world around us, right? Not to then say, I got this, I got that, I got this. And so let me climb up on this platform and make myself high and mighty. It is that high and mighty that then becomes the problem. That's how we are able to fall, right? um It's because we place ourselves in a position that we actually were not. We place ourselves. So we hoist ourselves up there and climb up there and then look down and say, well, I'm above all of you all or all of these circumstances and situations, or I'm higher or I'm closer to where I think the heavens are. So I must be a God, right? I must be mighty or more mighty. Um, and I maybe that's the pride that comes before the fall. We'll see. Um, and because, so Chief goes on to say, and because pride causes us to forget, or we begin to place ourselves where we actually have not earned, we get to that fall, as I said. And I'm really stressing that you examine as you're listening. Consider yourself. And if you're willing to be humble, and to share an example of an act of pride. And I guess I'll place that as the question. Identify an area that you have acted pridefully in. Yeah, let's do that. Um, and I'm happy to share one as well as we go through. Let's see. So, Ema Sequoia says, never compound your adjacency to power with being the wielder of that power. Being Anu still requires resignation and abasement, the Anu way. Thank you for that. Right. So you have to come under something, right? That's key. So I wanted to define pride, of course, before we even go any further. So I'm just going to read some of the origins of the term pride and what it meant historically. So to have pride is to congratulate oneself, right? Pat yourself on the back. To be proud or to indulge in like self-esteem, a lot of self-esteem. It is also to be arrogant or to act haughty. And we're going to get into haughty because that actually is folded into some of the scriptures that we'll read. And its root in like the Old English has to do with to become or becoming arrogant or haughty. So after I thought about the time, right, the dispensation that I'm even sharing this message, I'm like, it's June. It's like colorful flag month, and a time that many in the secular world choose to be very proud. And so I just thought, how befitting, how befitting this particular message this day, at this time. And Aki Zach says, I'm trying to think of an area where I struggle with pride and can't think of one, which tells me that my pride is at play currently. I know I have some. Well, thank you. I look forward to, it being revealed, for the scales to come off your eyes. Peace, I thank you for answering the question. The first time I experienced being surrounded by a stable of attractive women, I ignored the guidance of my elders, assuming I was doing something no one ever had at the level I was doing it. Right. So that pride said, Yeah, nobody's doing it like you, right? So why would you need to listen to anybody else's guidance and instructions about how you can do this thing that had been happening for centuries before you? Yeah, thank you for that answer. Um, I'll say that, and I touched on it earlier. I would say that my pride is often wrapped in this idea that I actually know what I'm talking about all the time, right? And I do not. Um, and humility would have me own that. Not only do I not, that when I'm speaking, I must cite my sources for everything that I'm saying, because very little of it is my original thought, my original statements. I may be able to piece things together, but I'm literally piecing together. Um, so that's important, right? And that garners more integrity and humility, because you have to acknowledge the source, right? And not put yourself, not put myself where I actually haven't earned. um so yeah. So Merriam-Webster defines pride as, in the original use, pride was hardly something to be proud of. This is what I found. Pride is hardly something to be proud of, as it carried the meaning of inordinate self-esteem. So not just like a little bit of self-esteem, but an inordinate amount of self-esteem. Think of what month we're in. Think of the types of parades that go on right now. Think of just, yeah, yeah, yeah. Think of all the pride and how imbalanced it is. I know in the segment that I reference for today's build, the Sabbath insight, Chief actually talks about that secular pride, and it's really rooted in, I have accomplished these Western standards. And so therefore I am better than, or I celebrate these things. But there is very little commitment or investment in celebrating or honoring spiritual growth, or the investment, because often for those who are tethered to that Western idea, or yeah, I'll say it's an idea. Um, you want to say it was me, right? It was me that did it, and not some unseen force that is driving me. And so that's that's the challenge, right? That's the challenge for many of us. Um, Webster's also says that it is an unreasonable conceit of superiority. So again, it's not earned. Something just told you that, by way of your job, your, maybe the amount of money you make, your lifestyle, um, the number of women you have or have access to, or that, are willing to come under you, or whatever other examples we may pull from, or even not being able to find an example, right? And to own that, yeah, that has to be my pride kicking up, right? I can't even identify a time I was prideful. I guess I'm being prideful right now. All of that speaks to how steeped we are in this particular mindset, um, and a lack of humility. So let's see. So Akizak says, thinking I could buy some ice cream and think that I could only eat a scoop in moderation. Don't talk about ice cream. A scoop in moderation. I know I shouldn't have bought it, but my pride said, yes, I could have better restraint. Right. Your pride told you you were way better than you actually were, way better than you even have shown yourself to be to yourself, right? I think that's a, thank you for that example. Because it shows how, like, that narrative is I'm going to go buy this ice cream. And I'm going to buy a pint or a gallon or however much you buy, but I'm only going to have a scoop at a time. Right. Right. And then you eat the whole little thing and then your stomach hurts and then ask me how I know. Ask me. Ask me. So Margie Marie Art says, my pride would be a time when I wanted to have these amazing art shows and they weren't falling through. While others were rocking. Yeah. Well, racking up shows. I felt like my art was better. And you felt like your art was better, right? And but I should have, and continue to think that I should have had those shows, only to learn they weren't coming through, right? They weren't coming through because I was creating art surrounding selfish matters rather than art that reflects the kingdom of Yah. Thank you for that. That actually, again, all roads are gonna point to the Anu insight, the Sabbath insight, pride and bloodline redemption. Because in that segment, Chief actually speaks about that. He speaks about people who, similar to what you shared, Margie Marie, are those of us, and we all may have an experience where an area where we've done this, where we look at what someone else is doing, or we think we can see what someone else is doing or has access to, or is being celebrated for. And we like, I think his example was, I won't use this example because it was about a part of a woman's body, but it's like, I look better than her, or I should have had that, or I articulate myself better, or my presentations are better, or my projects are. It always starts with the me, mine, I. What I can do is so much better than that. As opposed to acknowledging just what, and I'm going to highlight it again, just what Margie Marie Art says at the end, that ultimately what we're doing should be reflecting the kingdom of Yah. And if it is not, then, and even sometimes, and he touches on this as well, it's just not your time. It is just not your time. Maybe there's a level of refinement that has to be put in place. Maybe the environment around you needs to be refined, right? In order to receive fully what your creator is imputing within you to bring forward. But we never quite think of any of those things. We go right to, I want it now. My degree says I earned it, even though I couldn't teach anything that I learned, even though I may have just graduated. But this piece of paper in this culture says I am qualified, okay? And so therefore I should have it. And never mind if your perception is that you're doing it better than somebody else, which again is very prideful, right? So thank you for, okay. I thought I was caught up with the chat, but now I see it's some more down there. So Anu Radio says, I have the habit of attaching emotions to ideas that are not even mine to begin with. They're not even yours to begin with. I was prideful when I couldn't take critique from Chief during a live. Okay. So when you say ideas that are not even yours to begin with, can you give an example of what you mean? Can you elaborate a little bit? Give thanks. So Ema Sequoia's answer, she remembers coming out of high school and bragging about all the universities she got accepted into, thinking that somehow that made me better than my family. Extremely arrogant. Right. Oh, and thank you, Chief Yuya, for posting the link to the particular YouTube message I was referencing. Right. So Margie Marie Art says she was not given the gift back to the one, who gave me the gift, right? Who gave her the gift. in the first place. In the end, I had to be humble. Right. And it's choose humility or be humbled, right? We Humility is such an honor. Like the choice of humility um is such an honor, as opposed to the act of being humbled. Like when I like just reading the word humbled, right, or be humbled, I'm like, man, that's yeah, that's the one that we don't necessarily want to receive, but it comes because we didn't choose humility first, right? We didn't choose reverence of towards our creator first. Master Menelik says his answer: thinking that I was so smart that I never needed to study. It reflected in my grades when I tried to get through high school on memory alone. You're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, the thing about that is you try to navigate academically without being studious. And then there's that idea that yesterday's information, like today's information, sits on top of yesterday. So like that idea of compounding interest, right? Compounding knowledge. If you didn't have yesterday or last strong or last year's, you're kind of like lost. You're lost. And so you're literally trying to fake it until, I don't know that you make it. I think you come to the realization that that's not your path, B. Like that's not it. That's not it. Um mm, my stuff more John Blaze. Right. Exactly. Thank you for that. Um yeah, exactly. Mess you up every time. Yeah, yeah, that pride. Tell them why you mad. Who I don't know who that was to, but we oh, maybe that was to Margie Marie Art. I'm not sure. But whenever I hear Tell 'em Why You Mad, so I just think of the Mad Rapper. I'm sorry. That was definitely my generation. Um so Aki Darian says, pride for me comes in the form of procrastination. I can relate. I find myself putting tasks off because I'm good enough to get it done later, then rush to finish. Right. And in that example, I'm going to put it back up. In that example, where is the opportunity to sit in meditation and bring forth the truth of what your creator may want to stir up in you to bring forward, right? In that frenzy, right? In that last minute, we're going to get this done because I know I got it. Um, I never consider when I'm procrastinating the fact that the time between that incubation period between receiving instruction, let me put it here, receiving instruction and a deadline and getting to that deadline, there's all this space. What if that space is the actual amount of time necessary to bring forth the message the creator has prepared for you and I to bring forward? So that arrogance of procrastination, that prideful act, actually causes it causes delay. If we even get it done to begin with, it causes delay, and you don't even, I would imagine, we don't even have the opportunity to bring forth the message as it was originally intended, because we didn't use the time properly. We didn't honor the dispensation that we were being granted. So thank you for sharing that. And thank y'all for being so active in the chat. It I always laugh because it means that I don't get to the notes, but then guess what? That's me being prideful, because who said that all these notes were actually what needed to happen right now, right? So there you have it. Master Menelik says, also when there is a problem, my idea and my solution is the solution. My idea and my solution is the solution, or even the solution needing to be worded, in a way that I would say it, or that the solution needs to make sense to me to apply. Right. Listen, I thank you for sharing that, Master Menelek, because I know, as a woman in Anu that is unmated and a part of the Covering Initiative, I receive instruction, I receive directions from Chief Yuya, and as such, it doesn't matter if it makes sense to me or not. Right? It doesn't matter. It is to be done. And if I fail to move because it doesn't make sense to me, and for whatever reason I don't even ask for more clarity in the areas that maybe I don't comprehend, but it can't be I don't do it because that doesn't make sense. So hearing you describe that, from the men's perspective, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, that's a huge act of pridefulness. And Marjorie Marie Art says, or maybe we should not be in those environments to begin with. True, true indeed, true indeed. Now the chat is chatting. Yes, the chat is very chatty today, and I appreciate it. Ema Sequoia says it is very unpleasant when you are humbled and you get that big lump in your throat. Yeah. So the thing about that, and I know I said it as well, right? Like, we may not want to be humbled, but we should choose humility. So we don't want to be humbled. I'll just share. Spoiler alert. So one of the charges, right, at the end of the that Sabbath insight was actually that it shouldn't matter. Actually, this is not at the end. This is in the middle. But it shouldn't matter how we are corrected, how we receive truth. Ultimately, if we want to be redeemed, we should be willing and open and receptive. Like right now, I not should be, am open and receptive to one of the brothers or one of the elder sisters coming on this live and saying what you just stated was incorrect and this is correct, or this is a more accurate depiction of how you present yourself as prideful, and be humbled and receive it with humility and gratitude, because in that act I have the opportunity to actually not fall, like not be sinful, not be prideful, to actually walk more upright. And so that's what we get, or that's what we earn when we choose humility. And even holding on to that narrative of being humbled is challenging, because you may feel a lump in the throat, and the lump, that's the pride. That's the pride, right? Just let it go on and dissipate, like burp it out, I don't know, cough it out, whatever you need to do. Don't swallow it down, release it, right? So that we can get to and Ema Akuya touched on this yesterday during our womb build, which actually had a lot to do with pride as well. That idea of, and she used me as an example of being called out and choosing to own it and to laugh at my mistake, right? Not thinking that I have to keep a poor attitude about it or be prideful about being corrected or being called out in a moment. Albaraz Kush says, I thought I was able to quit my job and live off my business, but didn't have a strong knowledge base of how business and commerce functions. So I wasted a lot of time hoping, being stagnant. Yeah, right. So instead of investing the time and the work and being studious, right, and making sure you had the proper infrastructure, Okay. Thank you for that. Akotiafe says, a time when I was prideful, when I was working a worldly job where I had to be a spokesperson and thought that since I was in front of the camera, that what I was saying was right and mattered. Right. Thank you. It didn't. Thank you for that. It's like, and the punchline. Okay, so thank you for clarifying. So Anu Radio says, I said not mine because of the illusion of ownership. Yeah, the examples are usually projections, maybe projections. The examples are usually projects. I'm thinking projections. We plummet from grace when we exalt the gift over the giver of the gift. Absolutely. And that's from Anu Way Foundations. Thank you for that. And thank you for offering that clarity. Actually, let me go back to it. So you said, yeah, they're not yours because of the illusion of ownership. So you take on an idea that is not yours and then get proud or prideful over it being annihilated. Okay. I think I'm fine. If I'm following, like, throw me a thumbs up, or I want to make sure that I'm clear. That part about asking for more clarity when given instruction. Boy, oh boy. Come again, say what? Absolutely. And I'm like, okay, I have another question. Okay, so did I understand this correctly? Yeah, which could be, I imagine it could be a nuisance, but I wanna also imagine that thinking, pridefully thinking that I got it and then running with the ball, right? For some reason I always go to like a football run. Y'all can't see it, but the football is like tucked here. And we know I don't know anything about sports. So just go with my little analogy here. It's like you run with the ball and you don't know where you're running to. You weren't even supposed to run with the ball, but you did not ask near one question, missed half the words in the original instruction, and then wasted a whole lot of time. And people are looking for the ball, and your full self has it down the field celebrating. Right. Come again, say what for real? Okay, so Master Menelik is giving instruction to Sister Yamina. Give one example and be more specific and less. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because it's very abstract. I was trying to tether it to something. So thank you for that, Master Menelik. And Margie Marie Art says, this segment also makes me think of Isaiah 3:16-26 regarding the haughty woman. Yes, we see a lot of this playing out today. Indeed, indeed. Oh, don't laugh at my little football. All I said is I ran with the ball, right? Don't you tuck it? Don't you? You tuck it. You tuck it close to the breastplate and you run with it. You don't hold it out, right? You don't. Anyway, take my analogy. I'm just gonna run with the ball. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm I'm reading a comment that we're not up to yet. Okay, so Master Menelik says, right, exactly. I'm gonna score for the wrong team, right? And I wasn't supposed to have the ball. And Chief US says, nah, you have to ask for clarity because your prideful self-interested, decided to listen sporadically when given the instruction. You don't think the master is not aware of that. Yes. Right. You have to ask for clarity because your prideful self-interested, decided to listen sporadically when given the instruction. Right. So not listening. I am not listening. Yes, and that is known. And you don't think the master is not aware of that. Yeah, definitely. The master is aware. And that actually makes me think of a piece from the, oh shoot, the segments are blending together. Was it the Titus? Oh my gosh, someone will have to help me here. I think it was this most recent podcast. If not, it was episode 91, which was the last part of the Jezebel series. But I know towards the end, prideful, self-interested. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, okay. Prideful, self-interested. Oh, self. Okay. Prideful, self-interested, self. Yes. Thank you. Pride, interest of self. Right. Decides to listen sporadically. Right. Yeah, you're hiding behind the bushes. Is that what that is? Is that I've never seen that meme, but I definitely picture like, okay, let me hide your face. Yeah. Well, I can't hide mine, but I'm with you on that one. What I was saying is that last piece about, me thinking that the master is not aware of exactly my flaws, right? And the areas that I need to be covered. Actually, it was in the Titus segment. Chief Yu actually talks about that. And he talks about the value of headship, or a component of being a proper cover or covering is covering that particular woman, knowing exactly where her defects and flaws are. So knowing she don't listen, or she gonna half read or half listen, and what needs to come, what steps need to kind of follow that to correct that behavior, right? To remedy that behavior, because that's not acceptable. And I will that I connected those dots appropriately, and I trust that if I have not, I will get instruction. Sovereign Eats says, I had pride in the ability to govern my day based on divination and programs of ancestral connections that I thought was the proper path now. But we should not subjugate ourselves to those forces. Right. Okay. So your pride is past tense. LOL. It was okay. So it was the most recent podcast. Thank you. Yeah. I give thanks. Thank you. And I said 92. It was 91. I apologize. And Sovereign Eats also says, Anu provides me grace and an opportunity to see where my true governance and authority comes from. It comes from my covering and from Yah. Yeah, thank you. All right, I am caught up with the chat, so I'm going to get back into some of what I wanted to share. The example I gave was, yes, okay, right, the past. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Next generation provide. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Proverbs before I shared the first scripture. So you'll notice that I'm calling it Proverbs and not Proverbs, right? And that's actually based on instruction by Chief Yuya a while ago. I think it wound up being like a 6-part series where he delved into a component of Proverbs and indicated that it should be pronounced Proverbs. And when I went through my notes, I had a few things that I wanted to share. And it says that a proverb by definition is defined as like a short statement or a charge to take a particular action, or a statement of truth or wisdom. And so I remember Chief even breaking down, well, it's a pro verb, like grammatically, even from that sense. And it's like when you think of it, that what's in the chat? Oh, an example. Okay, so I'll get to that example in a moment. But like a verb is, a call to action, right? Or a charge to take an action. And that pro part is is like saying I'm in favor, right? It's like I'm pro, right? I'm pro whatever. I won't use the one that comes to mind, but I'm pro-life, right? I'll just use that one. So it's like I am for or in favor of or supporting that premise. So I'm supporting or moving towards or in favor of taking that action. And so 2.7. Okay, so that is what a proverb is, right? For those that may have missed the many times Chief has broken it down, at least that's a little bit of what I have about what a proverb is. And if you look at the chapter of Proverbs from that perspective, you can appreciate why there are these little snippets, right? So you can take each couple of verses, each verse, and it'll stand on its own. Yes, of course, there are precepts that we can use to anchor and support and to build out from. But Proverbs was even what I was instructed to have my youth read, particularly the beginning portion of Proverbs, because it is so simple, because it is so concrete. It does so concretely state, this is what you're to do, this is how you're to live, and then it gives room for dialogue, right? But the action is clear, and specific. So Sovereign Eats, I'm sorry, Anu Radio says the very first time was a science fair in grade 7. My cousin and I made it to the regionals, and a scientist approaches our station. He's licking shots. Okay. He was all right. So he was posing doctorate level questions that you could not answer. You made me have to like translate that message, which was kind of funny. So Chu says, yeah, 6 parts, but y'all probably heard 2.7. Yeah, got to go back and listen a bunch more times, a bunch of more times. So on the radio says she asked him if he had any more questions in the middle of him asking his 20th question, and shut the whole thing down. Sound familiar? Yeah, still battling with that one. Right. And what you're describing, there's almost like when you say you take on, information as if it's yours. It's almost like you're based on an example that you're almost like, I got this, and there's nothing else. There's nothing else even to it. So beyond it not being real, there's also like, because in what you're describing, it seems like you're making it very real. It's very real, and it's very much mine. And I'm going to almost protect it like the real live baby that I think is also mine, as opposed to being open to the idea that, one, that's only one way, and two, you should be open to receive other ways, right? Particularly when you know it's coming from knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Okay, I did that one. So Akizak says, my pride often has me stepping in situations that I should leave alone, thinking that I'm the one that needs to fix the problem, because if I don't do it, then it won't be done. Right. Okay. So I want to share. What time is it? Oh, shoot. Look at that. Like 53 minutes. Dang it. Okay. So I wanted to share Proverbs 16 and 17 and dig into it a little bit. So it says, the highway of the upright is to depart from evil, right? He that keepeth his way preserveth his soul. I'll also read 18. It says, pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. So, one, the scriptural reference is not that pride comes before the fall, right? It's pride goeth before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. So I was talking about that earlier, that idea that we get these little chopped and screwed versions of a statement, and we kind of think that is somehow connected to scripture, but it's been so adulterated that what we may lean upon or even act upon, right, or use as that charge to act, and it's a little askew. So I'm going to use the rest of my time willfully to break this down, and then if need be or if appropriate, I'll come back and just share some more. Let's see. Oh, okay. So more instructions. So give thanks. So what altered it? Oh, okay. I think those are both for Anu Radio. Just let me know, Akotiafe. I think probably Jerome. I don't know what that means, but but I think Master Menelik and Akotiafe are addressing Sister Yamina. So I'll leave that there for her to clarify, and I will dig into. I'm just looking over at my notes. So with Proverbs 16 and 17, right? It says the highway. Like, I looked at the word highway first, right? The highway of the upright is to depart from evil. So I was like, there are highways? That was the first red flag, right? So there are highways in biblical times. Say word. That's when you're like taking it like literally. And then I'm like, wait, what is the relationship between highway and falling, right? Or pride and humility, right? One is like this haughty, I'm going to be up here because I've climbed or I've cheated or I've stolen or however I've gotten there. Or maybe it was even, I think I earned it. Whereas the humble and the humility is like down at the ground level. So that was like my first kind of standout word, like hold up. Y'all are funny. Jerome in the house, watch your mouth. Okay. Now I picture the whole dance and the teeth and the hair. I picture the whole thing, but I'm gonna stay focused. So the highway, when you look in Strong's, the highway also references a stairway or a course or a path. And so I'm like, okay, now I understand a bit further, right? So we're not talking literally about a highway, although we are, in that when we get on a highway today, we know that it's going to take us a particular path. It's going to take us through particular exits and get us to an intended destination. And so the intended destination here, or the highway of the upright, is to depart from evil. So you want to be getting on that road that's going to ensure that you are steering clear of and moving as far away from evil as possible. That's like, I don't know, my like thought, my takeaway from just that idea of why is highway here? And so I tend to like to use and I've shared this before. I know we all have our preferred study guides for scriptural reference. I love Blue Letter Bible. I really like it a lot. And in that, okay, sorry. In that, I'm reading the chat, but I'm gonna just keep flowing. In the Blue Letter Bible, it also offers, so it gives Strong's, it gives actually several transliterations and definitions for a particular word. And so I shared Strong's, and Strong's is stairway or course or path. I tend to also like the the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, and there it says a way cast up. So the word highway is referencing a Hebrew term, and I didn't copy the term. I apologize. This time I didn't copy it. But the definition is a way cast up, or embanked, or a public way, right? So that even gives me a sense of like, there is a way up, but it's not through pride, right? It's not through, it's actually by way of departing from evil. So even that idea of departing, I kind of thought, well, what is that? Right? That means that I am somewhere that is evil, or evil is where I am because I'm departing from it, right? So I looked that up. And to depart in Strong's is to turn off or go back, or to decline. So I decline. I take the road that declines evil. That's what I'm going to share for that part. And instead, right? So you're going to depart from evil, or turn away, or back away from that premise, and instead you're going to be he who keeps his way. So the cool thing about way is that way actually, we can use the word journey or path. So he that keeps his way, and I know Chief Yuya has touched on early, I think it's throughout the Hebrew Testament, those that were following this particular doctrine were called followers of the way, right? So followers of the way, again, followers of a particular path or followers of a particular journey, are charged to preserve their soul. So everything is about the preservation of the soul, and departing from evil. So like one of the things that it helped me consider is, sometimes I have these random weird kind of sayings in my head. And the one that came to mind is like, keep your head on a swivel. And that idea of your head being on a swivel, like you're constantly watching everything that's going on around you, so that you can recognize within yourself and within your surroundings what in fact is evil, what we need to actually separate ourselves from or depart from, and how that connects to pride. Because sometimes pride will tell us that, similar to the ice cream example that Aki Zach gave earlier, sometimes pride will say, well, no, I could, and not because you are representing something righteous in that space, but you have some other motives. You'll say, well, no, I can do what I'm otherwise instructed to not do. Like as a woman, I'm going to go out at night after dark, and what's the big deal? Like I can go hiking in the woods by myself, and nothing's going to happen to me. There are is it forest rangers? I don't know. There are folks out there that'll keep me safe. I have my whistle. I have my safety whistle, or I have my machete, or I have my flashlight, or my mace, or whatever you may, pridefully hold on to and think that little thing will keep you safe. And you choose to go outside of instruction. Think of the evil that, or the, what lies in that as evil. And just that, yeah, like an owl. Yes. And I don't know if y'all can hear, there's like owls. It's daytime. I thought they would be asleep, but where I am, the owls are very active. It's very interesting. Okay, let me get to the chat before I go any further. I think I'm here. Similar to money is the root of all evil, as opposed to the love of money is the root. Absolutely. So that's another one that it was just given to us chopped and screwed. And I would say intentionally, right? Intentionally so. Like, we're so far from the mark. We're like, yeah, money is the root of all evil, so I don't want no money. Yeah. But we're taught you're to love people and use money, right? Use it. So no, we can have money. We're to use it, right? And not love it, right? Not love the money. So thank you for that. God, poor people thinking. Right. Thank you, Master Menelect. And that therein lies the trick bag, right? So Aki Zach says, could you say the lack of money is the root of all evil? Would it matter what adjective you put in front of it? So Chief says, yes, it matters. Mark 12:41 through 44. And on the radio says, I'm mad. Oh, so it was for you. Tell them why you're mad, son. I'm mad because I attach my identity with these ideas or projections. Or well, she wrote projects, so I'll say projects. And also, I'm looking for more moments to be prideful in achieving something that I think is great, which is never really great. Yeah, and it's looking for those moments of greatness, almost so that you can have your slow motion, you have all of that. But the truth of the matter is we don't even know. We won't even recognize when we're being great, because there's the creator just comes down and moves through and words are said, and maybe others will see it, but we may not. we likely will not. So Aki Zach says, drink from the well, like in the movie yesterday, is what that makes me think of. Red jumpsuits. I don't know about the red jumpsuits. I don't know what we're talking about here. Oh, maybe the movie. I was not present for the movie yesterday. So perhaps that's what's being referenced here. And there might be a little noise, so pardon me if you do hear it. So Sovereign Eat says, yep, end subscription, distance yourself. Yes, give it the cold shoulder. I also think about the charge from the Jezebel episode where we are to call it out and fast. Yeah, we are charged to call it out. Absolutely. Absolutely. Park ranger in the red jumpsuit. Oh, yes. Are they in red jumpsuits? Park rangers? I thought they wore khaki and the ranger hat. What kind of park rangers y'all had in your home state? I thought they wore, well, then again, I guess I wouldn't know because I only draw reference from TV, and they have the ranger hat and they're wearing khaki. I don't know. When I hear red jumpsuits, I think of orange jumpsuits, and then I think of criminal justice system. So completely different frame of reference for me. Oh, the red jumpsuits from Under the Skin. Okay, that's what I figured. I didn't know. I didn't get to watch that yet. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Oh, and he was a logger. All right. So, okay. Got it. Thank you. Maybe the Ranger. Maybe the Rangers have Fire Island. Right. Maybe they're ablaze. That's why they're in red jumpsuits. But nonetheless, I want to honor the space and time. So I'm actually going to really just leave us with a few additional thoughts about, let's see. I've never seen a park ranger. Thank you. I thought it was me. Aki Zach is the avid. Oh, peace to you, y'all. The avid hiker. So he said, "Ain't no park rangers in all red." I'm gonna go with that. Peace. Thank you for joining, Chief.
Please, I just wanted to, before you closed out, wanted to share, um, you know, like really focusing in on solutions. I mean, this was a good segment. And, I know we definitely had a lot of fun with it, but I think also people need to understand just how despicable and disgusting pride is. You know, even outside of all the things, the stories and things that we're telling and stuff. But um, you keep in mind that there was an Elohim that was removed out of the congregation of the Elohim because of pride. So even in our waking life, in our human life, there are people who will get removed out of an experience that they may be pulling from or enjoying because they're prideful. So just speaking personally, I find it so detestable, a prideful person, or even an arrogant person, because they're an abomination. They represent an impurity of a person. Pride, like many other emotions, is actually a hybrid emotion. So pride is a toxic form of confidence. So once you allow things to get twisted in that sort of way, then you become like an unclean abomination in someone's space. Similar to, what often comes along with pride is the impurity of desire and yearning. And that's an emotion that is a product of excitement with the consciousness of lack. If so, when you have excitement and you have a lack mentality or a lack matrix, then that turns into yearning, and you don't need to yearn, right? And in the same instance, you don't need to be prideful, which also is often a product of you thinking that you're better than someone else. You're better than others, and that develops a certain uh, arrogance and insecurity within yourself that you begin to learn how to overcompensate for. So I think as part of solutions too, the first thing to keep in mind is that we are designed to be led by the soul. That is our natural design. And what happens is we become prideful when we establish this false matrix of knowledge. It's this sort of false histrionic matrix in this database that exists inside of us of what we know, what we're knowledgeable about. And we begin to lean on that matrix instead of leaning on the soul, you know. And what happens after a while, when I think it's probably even similar to Anu Radio's example of the science experiment. um Leaning on, instead of being directed, like, this is a person standing in front of me asking me questions that could expand my information and my knowledge about this thing, but I'm leaning on the identity of the little bit of knowledge that I've acquired, which probably wasn't much of anything, because you were a youth in a science fair, you didn't know nothing. So, but I'm using that and I'm establishing an identity from that little bit that I have, instead of being led by the soul, which may say, hey, th- there's a moment here where I can express some teachability, and there's a moment where I can express some humility, and I can be humble enough to admit that I don't know this, but I can strive to be better and to do better by taking in more. But we lose that opportunity as a result of that conceited sense of superiority, because we're not being led by the soul in that sense. So I think it's just important to understand, like, how disgusting it is to have a self-inflation of your identity like that. When you begin to misuse confidence to the point that it becomes overconfidence. Even, you think about when Yahweh was doing what Yahweh does. It wasn't to show, like, he wasn't like, yo, hey fellas, check me out, everybody gather around, come on, hey, I'm about to heal the blind, come on, whoa, give me a fist bump, come on, and doing fist bombs and stuff like that. You check me out in Nazareth, I'll be there next week. It was like he came to show this is what you can do. So he's constantly removing himself out of the equation and giving the honor back to the creator. So like even when he said, I am the true grapevine and my father is the gardener, right? So it's still that concept there that, and he said he cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do bear fruit so they will produce even more, right? So you have already been pruned and purified by the messages I gave to you. But there's still an acknowledgement that the Most High, Yahweh, Elohim, is the one who's actually doing the pruning and doing the gardening. So that's when you're being led by the soul. There's constantly an appointment and a suggesting up to that higher guru who's guiding you, as opposed to, well, I know this and I know that, because you're always going to show that you probably don't know anything. And that's what makes you so difficult to be around. At least for me, I can't stand it. It's especially because a lot of times people don't realize how much you're holding back from letting them know what they really are. I think about the patience of the creator. When you have a prideful person around them and you see the weakness, you see why they're behaving that way, and all the little ways that it comes out, because they see it so necessary for their survival and their self-preservation to build up this um this dead artificial identity, and they trying to let you know in every moment that it's foolproof. You can't trick me. You can't tell me this. You can't tell me that. And by doing that, they've isolated themselves from living wisdom, so that they're unable to make real authentic assessments about the world around them because of that level of isolation and what they've constructed. So they have to now pretend to know the truth. And if you're walking with the truth and in the truth, you see right through it. You see right through all that pride and ego, and you see the weakness of it. And you might do them a favor by not telling them right there in the moment. But it doesn't mean that you don't want to just throw up whenever they come around, because that is such a root chakra low vibrational point, because they're just unable to kind of relinquish sometimes their point of reference of what they've built up within them, because their ego will fight, and they're really in bondage, and you see them in bondage, and you enslaved fool is all you really see. So, I mean, I didn't want to bring such a down energy, but I know we joking and laughing, but it's even like some of the examples the sisters was given. It's like, this is why men don't really be wanting you around like that. you know you're not really a woman. If you get to that point where you're like, well, I know everything, no one has anything to teach me, this man has nothing to teach me, all right, well then beat it. Because if our whole interaction is me, I give, you receive, you produce, there's a chain that's here. It's not just you receive. It's not that I don't get off by giving, you know, but it's you produce with what you've been given, and what has been inputted into you. I know what the output is supposed to be, because it was already inside of me, just in a micro form or a thought form. So when something outputs differently than what I inputted, I know it's not me, I know it's you. So because you're unwilling to function as a woman should, I would rather not have you around, because you're disgusting. You're some sort of weird abomination. You look like a woman, but you're acting like a toxic guy, So
Thank you. Definitely not. This is enlivening. So thank you for sharing. I had a question. So if we're moving and we're not led by the soul, um, is pride having us lead by like our feelings or emotions, or just living in, like, well, you said that want or desire, which is more of our worldly conduct, right? Like how we're moving throughout the world.
what was let me try to understand your question again, especially
Right.
considering I already gave the answer when I first made the statement. So let me
But
try to understand where you
no.
stopped listening. Hmm.
So when we're not led by, well, then there is no question. Oh, there is no
No,
question.
let's go through it because this is what we're speaking about, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
Um, as you were speaking, I was wondering, well, if I'm not being led by my soul, am I being led by the somatic experience, like the wanting, or just, yeah, the physical experience that I may be having or want to have?
Hmm. So one of the first things I said is that we're designed to be led by the soul, but what people build up is a database of knowledge, and they use that database of knowledge or information to be their guide. So of course the database of knowledge and information comes before the emotions.
Okay.
So we're designed to be driven by the soul. Like we're designed to have the soul in the car, in the driver's seat, and we are the vessel being moved. But instead we move that out. We don't want that, right? And then now we decide we're going to depend on an artificial database of information. And that database of information is based on our history and fed by the ego. So the soul says, hey, go here. And we say, well, I'm not the type of person that would go there. I'm the type of person that would go over here. And someone may even say, well, how did that work out for you in the past? It didn't work out well, but I'm still going to do it anyway. Right. So that's the biggest difference. When you're looking at someone who's a prideful person, that's a godless person. It comes hand in hand. That's a person that has no, because living wisdom is what? Living wisdom is living waters. And wisdom is the action. Wisdom is the thought. Wisdom is the speech of knowledge. Knowledge is what? The creator. So when you isolate yourself off from living wisdom, you're isolating yourself off from acting upon soul knowledge, speaking upon soul knowledge, and even feeling and emoting based on soul knowledge. So if you've cut yourself off from that, then what are you actually acting, speaking, and feeling upon? Artificial knowledge. Where does artificial knowledge come from? Well, if we know that right and exact knowledge comes from the creator, and we know that Satan's job is to create a mirror of everything the creator has. So the creator will give you a spirit, Satan will give you a demon. The creator will give you a soul where you can tap into infinite knowledge. Satan will give you books with distorted information. You see, and then we'll decide that we want to be driven by those artificial, you know, compendiums, compendiums of information, and we'll use that to assess all of our information. So we are literally at that point now building Satan's kingdom. You see, instead of, so that's what the pride is, because you remember, I mean, Lucifer is like, yo, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. All right, we'll go down to the earth, get up out of here, because you can't be up in here talking like that. So of course, if he says I'm going to do everything better than you did it, I have to first create my version of what you had or have, and I have to throw something extra, the Lucifer version, Lucifer edition, right? So that's the difference. Pride is the Lucifer edition or the satanic edition of the confidence that the Most High gives us in the faith that we're being driven through the soul energy, through our bodily vessels. So the opposite of that is I'm prideful because I'm overconfident. I know what I'm doing, but you're just pretending to know. You don't really know, because you don't have living waters in you. You have frozen water in you. That's the difference. Your water is frozen. So there's no movement. It's a lot of stagnation. You'll find prideful people don't change much. You don't see them making any big great leaps or anything like that. Whatever it is they do, they just keep doing more of that. I'm prideful because I make a lot of money. I made more last year than I made the year before. Okay, just money, 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 money. I get a new car every 2 years. Just new cars, okay. But there's never an expansion beyond that because they're frozen in their state of being. You see, because they've invested in that particular kingdom, and the waters that are in them are not living anymore. The waters are not flowing. You see, so when the Most High is still trying to pour into you, and you say, "Nah, no more, I'm good, not a mas." So now you're in a prideful state. But when you're still open to be that channel of flow, then you not only do you humble yourself, but in that moment you relinquish your points of reference. There are no points of reference. I'm just directed. There is no pride. There is no I'm better than you, you're better. It's none of that. I see there's a sameness that exists throughout all of the universe. And I have been blessed to be a part of that sameness.
Right. Thank you. And that would create that would be freedom, like that what you're describing. So we're not tethered to anything other than to the Creator. Yeah.
And you're less disgusting.
Less disgusting. Yes.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, it is important because that's the part y'all skipped over in what I put in the chat. Oh, he's saying we don't listen. He said, yeah, that's true. We don't listen. We don't listen. I said your arrogance and your pride and self-interest cause you to listen a little bit. I ain't gonna listen all the way. Because if I listen all the way, I gotta be vulnerable. I gotta open myself up completely to listen to every single word. I ain't doing that. I'm gonna listen to a word here and there so that way I can still maintain control. I'm gonna interject my ideas in the middle of when he's speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me to go do this task, so he told me to go do that task, but I'm gonna start thinking about something else. And then I'll come back later for clarity, because when I come back later for clarity, that's me turning him into my servant. I have a question for you. So there should be no questions. I already gave you directions. Were you listening to the directions? Yeah, but you're lying. You weren't listening. So now the man has a choice. He either continues to re-explain everything to you so you can get it on your time so you feel more comfortable, or he says, you know what, get the hell away from me. Go down to earth.
Right.
I don't even want you in my realm anymore because you're impure and I can't have abominations around me.
Right. So that would connect to really being silent, right? Like silencing ourselves so that we can be fully present and not
No.
and no. Okay.
Nope. What does silencing have to do with vulnerability?
Nothing. Well, I thought the connection would be
What you looking at up there?
my thoughts
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
up there.
Now you've already admitted that you have auditory hallucinations. Sometimes just voices just come in and they just pop in. Give me an idea.
Hospital for a long time. It's for a reason. I
Yeah.
fit in.
There's a name for that. Auditory hallucinations. Yeah.
So when I initially posed the question, I thought there was a connection. And if I'm not being silent when I'm being given instructions, it's because I'm preparing a response, or I'm not fully present. So that was what I thought the connection was.
That's a skip around. Why are you preparing a connection?
Right. You shouldn't be.
No, I didn't ask that. Why are you? See, all of this is an example of it.
Oh, okay. So
I can't get my questions answered. This is all an example. Fellas, I hope you're paying close attention You see, that's why half the time you ask a question, a woman does something she's not supposed to do, or a female, and you say, "Why'd you do that?" And she'll say, "Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have done that."
Oh, that's not an answer. Right.
hmm Let me just skip on around it. I'm not submitting to your questions. You see,
Okay.
pride, and I already know I'm right. I'm right all the time because I'm the man. If I was not right all the time, I wouldn't be what I am. When you look at the Most High, if the Most High is wrong, you question your whole existence. So the
Right.
Most High has to be right 24/7, even beyond 24/7, because it functions outside of our time matrix. So if I'm the Most High's man on earth, I'm always right, because the moment I'm not right, I'm not the Most High's man on earth.
Mm-hmm.
So when she says, that makes sense, you're right. Mother F, I know I'm right.
Right.
What are you
Right.
talking about? Oh, you trying to distract me. Okay, let's get back to it. Stop being a little devil, will you? hmm So when we say silence, that has nothing to do with actual submission to what's in
Mm-hmm.
front of you. If a man gives you a directive, the man who's covering you, what does that mean?
That means he's telling me where, like, he's telling me what it is, like what I should be looking at or what I should receive.
He's saving your soul. That's what he's doing. No matter what the directive is. No, don't get the tangerines. Get some pineapple.
Mm-hmm.
He's saving your soul because in each moment he's bringing the light of the creator through him to you. He redeems you this way.
Mm-hmm.
So every opportunity that you get to receive information, to receive knowledge, to receive direction and follow through with it, you are replaying a divine orchestra. Every time you interrupt that, you're not in the band.
Mm-hmm.
So you stay in this hellish place. So no matter what the instruction is, you should yearn almost for instruction if it's not present in your life. You see, and most of you who don't have a man who is not there, you feel that, man. I do wish I would have wish I had someone tell me what to do, this to that. But once you get it, you gain more confidence because now you know a little bit more how things work, and then that confidence turns into pride. You don't listen to him, and then he says, "All right, time for you to go." Wait, no, hold on, wait, nah, I waited long enough. Go. Right. So the thing is, it's like that's the pride. That's why I wanted to really speak to that. The pride is destroying you because it's Satan can't exist in the congregation. You can't have both in the same space. So even if I say, okay, well, this is the instruction, why didn't you follow? Or how do you do, like you said, well, silence. You could be silent in front of anything. You be silent in front of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Because this man is the Messiah. And if I don't listen to him, I won't be saved.
There's no salvation. Yeah.
If you really believed it. But if you really believed it, you would listen to him. So that shows you don't really see that as truth. I'm not just talking about you, I'm saying people in general, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. It, it, even experiencing this right in the moment, it speaks to how much growth is still necessary, right? For myself, because I'm the one here. Um, yeah, just period. So thank you for the patience to even come on and walk me through slowly.
It's not
Yeah.
about you. Can you put your foot behind your head right now and touch the middle of your back?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Do you think if I was there, I could take your foot and put it behind your head?
Yes.
Right.
Per-
So we all need to be stretched out. That's all this is.
Okay.
So you should always invite the stretching out. It's kind of like what Anu Radio said. I think she said one of her things was being corrected by Chief on air. So you just stiff. You stiff, and the only thing that's stiff is dead stuff. You should want to be stretched out all the time, because the more flexible I am, the more my potential to go down different channels of enlightenment. What if enlightenment is in the small of my back, but I can't reach?
Mm.
And I mean, man, I wish someone stretched me out. I would be able to reach, and I could go down that path. But
Right.
now I can't go down that path. I only have these fixed paths that I can go down because I refuse to be stretched out.
Hmm. Right. And the more stagnant we are, the more like crystallized or frozen, if I'm connecting it to what you said earlier, which is problematic.
Mm. Mm.
No?
Mm.
Dang it. Dang it.
Mm.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
See? But you
Perhaps
see how
so.
quiet the chat is now?
Yes.
Yeah.
It always
Mhm.
happens like that. It's like
Yeah.
everybody, it's like run.
Because most of the stuff people were saying was still keeping their ego intact. That's why it was
Yeah.
all the joking and the laughing in between. But when you really say, this is what you really are doing, this
Right.
is really the harm in that, what you're doing to yourself, and how you're representing yourself, then it's that again, the ego flares back up. Somebody's in the hood. Yeah. So in the ghetto.
The sad part is I'm so far from the hood.
Talking about the ghetto.
Right, a block away from the ocean, and still we got sirens going. My
They be
goodness.
gangbangers at the ocean. You ain't never
You
seen
know
that
what?
movie? What was it? Lean on Me with Edward James almost. And at the end, they went and played at the beach. All them gangbangers from the
I mean,
classroom.
that's true. Yeah.
Yo, essay, come on.
Right.
You're going to the beach, Holmes. Yeah,
There's a lot going on at the water.
right.
Well, peace, Aki Zach, and I also see Anu Radio joined us. Peace, peace.
Peace. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
loud
Okay.
and clear.
Peace,
Oh,
Chief. I wasn't. I was listening and really, yeah. I just want to thank you, and it feels heavy. It is dead. It feels very heavy, and it doesn't have to be. It's like, it's just an endless cycle. So, that what you're describing does sound like it is hell.
Mm-hmm.
So what I am in is hell when I don't have to be, especially in my situation. So thank you.
What you gonna do?
Let go of my point of reference because they ain't worth anything anyways.
What is your point of reference?
Um, I don't even, whatever I built up from over time, I don't even know what it is anymore because it just keeps on adding up over, like, just keep on picking up things as life progresses until it's just it seems like one big monster, so I don't even know what it is. Oh, that's what it is. A monster.
It's a monster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can become very circular. Yeah, I know y'all hear that echo. I think it's Yakira
Oh,
Eden.
sorry.
no, it's Anu Radio.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it can be problematic because it becomes so circular, and it has this it has this amazing ability to stabilize itself. Because your pride will stabilize itself in your secrets, and your secrets are reinforced by a spirit of rejection that can oftentimes be in inside of you. And sometimes that spirit of rejection, it has different ways. We run from discipline, so the spirit of rejection, it survives, and then the monster that you describe, it stabilizes once again. And sometimes it just has to do with, again, inwardly and silently, that you're easily manipulated by hidden hands. And that creates another spirit of rejection, and like another spirit of like, I have to build up this wall and around me of, no, I know this and I know that. Even within you don't. And within you're not that strong. Within you're easily manipulated, and it becomes this really sad circular singular mentality, if you will. It's just like you can't move from it, and not until you once you see um that pride and all of that lies within the herd. It becomes like, because pride becomes like its own legion, it becomes like its own army,
Mm.
and you're marching with it, and you have to separate yourself from the herd and move further away from the herd mentality, and move further into the soul mentality, and not try to find substitutes for the guidance that pride was giving you at one point. There's no replacement for it. It just shouldn't be present. And sometimes people do that. They'll find other things to separate them from the creator, because that's really what it's saying. Is you're just telling the creator, I could do it on my own. I'm going on my own. I got this. So you'll find other ways to separate yourself. And once you pull away from the herd, pull into the soul, right? Um, you'll be at a place where you're truly stabilized on the pyramid. Your structure will become so much stronger, because you're not building your life on these false premises. And the older we get, the more depressing it gets, because like I said, it's there. And you might be saying to yourself, I got to kill my ego, I got to kill my ego. But you begin to identify yourself with your pride. You begin to define yourself by your actions, you know and not understanding, man, I don't need to be defined by anything. And that's part of the key of getting yourself out of that. You mean, like, remove your point of references of what you pride yourself in and what you define yourself by. I'm not defined by anything, because the reality is you're a freaking woman. Women have no definition. That's the whole good part. If I touch a woman, I don't want to feel nothing hard. I don't want to feel anything defined, even, what I'm saying? Like, I know it's not a woman. It's like, all right, Cliff, you got me on that one, So, that's the thing. The whole, see, that's the problem. I'm over here ministering. See how y'all act? You know what I mean? That's the whole thing. The whole beauty of being a woman is being undefined. So when you root yourself in pride, you're rooting yourself in toxic masculinity, or in an ideal or identity. This is how I identify myself. Screw that. Nah, don't have any identity. Don't have any definition other than what you're given by the soul. And the soul is not stagnant, it's moving. So that means that identity is always going to be changing, and you got to listen in for it. What am I? Sometimes you come into a space, especially as a woman, you might have to be a couple of things. And you have to be in tune with what the soul is urging you to be in this moment. It may be, I'm nurturer, I'm entertainer, I'm disciplinarian, all in the same space as a woman. Maybe these are all the things I have to be within the next 5 minutes. So yeah, you have to be that, what we call or what I call, but I'm sure somebody else too, but you have to be that undifferentiated matter, where you're like putty, soft putty that can twist and get big, get small, get whatever it needs to be. When you become like that, then I promise you, you won't have any pride or ego. You just won't be able to. There'll be no place for it to root, and you won't be confusing self-respect with pride and ego. You won't have those emotional responses immediately, or have a misuse of certain emotions. It just won't. It'll be impossible. It just won't happen.
Thank you, Chief. That's big what you said just now. The difference between self-respect and pride,
Mm-hmm.
and also what you said about I forgot. I'm sorry.
There we
I
go.
was, no, I was being like water. I was being like water. Oh yeah,
Right.
that's what it was. It was
Float
being like
away.
water. It was being like water. Yeah, that it is stiff. Like I forgot what I was gonna say, but that part, what you said, being like water. I don't want to pull I have a root right now, but that's what I'm gonna end it right there.
Oh,
Oh my goodness. You're out. You're out.
When,
You are.
so
But
when in doubt, throw someone else under the bus.
right. Well, he doesn't say anything though. Yeah, like Chief says. No, I didn't say that.
No,
But
it will come back. It will come back, and
yeah, it's water. Water sometimes circles back around. But I'll just give everybody listening a little tip on this, especially you sisters. Well, no, everybody, not just sisters. But when you have that experience when like that you feel, because you can feel it, that pride welling up. I think someone joked earlier, said it's in your throat. You said that's the pride, like when you start feeling that pushing inside of you, that feeling of yeah, I feel like my boundaries were butted up against, or something has disrupted my sense of judgment, or whatever it is. It's just pride. One of the tricks that you can do is you pause, you take a moment, right? Soon as you feel that feeling, and what you do is you explore the actual feeling, right? So let's say, for instance, I don't know, man. Like, I know you meaning you play basketball, right? So let's say you play against somebody, you play against Menelec, and you barbecue them, right? And and in that moment, you're like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, and you know what I'm saying, you doing bodybuilder poses in front of them and everything, you know, and or you giving them bunks. Y'all probably don't know what bunks are though, but as you turn someone, they got to hold the fence and you kick them in the butt, or you throw the ball on them, exactly, or you kick them, either one. So, but either way, in that moment, explore exactly what you're feeling. Yo, I roasted them, barbecued them, right? Hold on to that for a second, right? And it could be other emotions that come in, right? It's okay. Take all of them. I roasted him. I'm better. I'm faster than him. I'm whatever. I'm more coordinated than he is. Whatever it is, the feeling that comes up, you just hold it. And then what you do is you then, instead of going deeper into encountering that particular emotion, you shift all of your energy into the fact that you are aware. So you shift all of your energy into self-awareness. And what you congratulate yourself on is being aware of your emotional disposition in the moment. And just stay right there. Don't shift. Wow, I'm being prideful. And I'm aware of how this is coursing the because there's a post event. I'm aware of how it felt after and how it feels in my body, the way I'm breathing, the way I'm seeing things, and just focus on not so much the pride, but the excitement around self-awareness. Even if it's something that's unpleasurable, it could be your science fair project. It could be you decide you want to jog with Master Menelec. He dusts you. And you feel like, dag, but I used to run. Like I swear I used to do. He's at the finish line stretching, and you already get your excuses ready. Like, yeah, my sneakers, and these are basketball sneakers, so they're kind of heavy, and whatever it is, right? So in that moment, pay attention, collect all of the data on all of your quote unquote excuses, and really it's your egotistical thought. Allow those processes to go through you unhindered, and then what you do, instead of berating yourself for being egotistical, like, man, I did it again, I'm being prideful again, instead of making that a bad thing, you take that moment for self-awareness and congratulate yourself. Wow, I was over here getting ready to make my excuses about why I failed in the race and how I know I can really run, and you should have saw me 5 years ago. I was just take that moment for self-awareness and just focus on because self-awareness is always the solution. So you're now focusing on the solution and the laws of magnetism. What's going to happen instead of you magnetizing more pride and ego into your life journey, you're going to magnetize and attract more self-awareness instead. So it's like a hack of the law of attraction, you see. So that's just a little trick I would give anyone who may have trouble with that.
That is very helpful steps. I'm wondering if I now have to be careful then after that of congratulating myself and becoming prideful in the self,
Right.
prideful in the self-awareness.
Well, it becomes a cycle that burns itself out because you congratulate yourself. Oh, wow, I'm being self-aware. And then if you find yourself being prideful about being self-aware, you become aware of that. And eventually it burns out.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah. So because you figure too, it's burning out because you're no longer patting yourself on the back for feats like beating somebody, being smarter than someone, being pretty someone, whatever it is. You're now patting yourself on the back of being aware of your faults. So it's like a slow trickling down until eventually there's nothing.
So it would be like starving it, like pretty much. Yeah.
Nope.
No. Oh my God. Go
Nope.
shut my
Not at
mouth.
all. No, starving it would be like ignoring it. So that would kind of be the opposite of what I said. So I guess it could go in there if you had a column with synonyms and antonyms. So yours would be what Chief said, the opposite of what Chief said.
Okay.
There you go. Sometimes it's balance. Thank you. Balance, yin and yang. Mm-hmm. Tom and Jerry.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
So Peace Mastermind elect, welcome Akisak. Jump on in.
So did you lead with Mastermind elect so he could start talking first? Is that why you did that?
Oh no, you were here first.
That's what I was gonna say, but then you said Peace Mastermind elect, so I wanted to make sure.
No, I didn't greet him when he came in.
Yo, all right. This started making me think of the movie yesterday, and a couple pieces. And when I used to always say too, man, you got to be that undifferentiated matter. You know, just been saying it for a long time.
I've been trying to think about where I first heard it. But now I realize, because I could have sworn I wrote it in Grasping the Root of Divine Power, but I guess I didn't. Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Brother Zach was on the radio and that gave you inspiration to write the book.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense, man. Sometimes it's just like osmosis. It just be seeping in. Yeah. Thank you, brother Zach, for your presence.
That's why they call him Master Middle.
Exactly. He got that memory.
Oh,
yeah, Aki Zach got that sound doctrine.
Man, but I was thinking about in the movie and the piece where it said, you know, a lot of people who build themselves up on or don't recognize their dreams, and if they did, then they wouldn't be in this space. And it's like when we're speaking about how people have this view or perception of themselves that is built not of one that's being tethered to their soul, but more so tethered to a societal manner of this is what you should have, this is where you should be, this is where, and then all of a sudden getting older and not wanting to relinquish what they feel like they have built in themselves or the money that they currently are making, or I should be at this space, and not going to, you know, to humility and saying, you know what, I got off track. I went a different direction. I went right when I should have went left. And for me to go back left is going to cause me now to, and I think this is why they were looking at the clock sometimes too, is like, I don't know how much time I have left on the clock. So now instead of me, that pride that starts to say, I'm already going 50 miles the wrong direction, but I feel like I'm close enough to get to where I want to be going this direction, as opposed to turning around and going back the other direction, which means now I'm gonna have to go 50 miles back the other direction just to get to square one, then go 50 miles in the opposite direction, which now I keep looking at how long is this going to take me. I come in here, I should ask a couple questions. I should be set on the right path to going to where I need to go. And not looking at the whole scheme of things, of saying that, you know, there are forces that be that would cause one to go in a different direction. I think even looking at that book that was suggested, Chaos Machine. And in the Chaos Machine, it started speaking about, we talked about this yesterday a little bit too, just how the phones are designed to look like the slot machines. And on the slot machines, you know, they have the sounds where it keeps one connected and keep one having the dopamine of, you know, you associate like the Pavlov's theory of the sound with the salivating, and now you correlate the sounds with, I might win a lot of money if I keep the pulling of the lever makes the noise, and the ding 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 ding, like all of these things are associated to I'm probably going to get a reward if I keep going down this direction. So now my pride starts to tell me it's the next one. But meanwhile, there's a lot of things at play of psychology that somebody is attacking you from many different angles to get you to commit and to get you to dedicate your focus to what is on you. And now when one starts to dedicate their focus to a mission that has nothing to do with ultimately what they're supposed to be doing, now it's that pride though, but I know what's best. But it's like, you think you know what's best, but somebody is or what you said earlier is this, that being programmed from that unseen hand, which is telling you now to make this decision. I'm telling you now, like, just feeding you, but then can step back and say, but I didn't do that. You did that. Like, that was the decision that you made. And that's one of the things that one would say is the greatest trick that the devil ever played, was making people think that it wasn't real. And you thinking that, oh no, this is all me. And then always just having all this individual mindset, which could have been, I'm gonna say this one thing and I'm gonna stop because I'm getting long-winded, so I'm sorry. If one of the things of just looking at somebody, like as a man, having to come underneath somebody else who is further along the path, and saying that, you know what, I would rather figure this out myself, because I'm not going to listen to somebody who I may have to submit to. I may have to come underneath. I may have to study what's been said, so that therefore I can remember what I said when I was 5 years old, and it just starts. But it's like you
were doing good right up to that. I was proud of you too, man. You was cooking right up into that.
Yeah, it's just somebody remembering what you said a long time ago. They just dump you back into memory.
Mm-hmm.
It's that past life wisdom.
But it's one of those that you can keep going down this wrong direction or this wrong road, because your pride is saying, no, you know what? Either I'm gonna have to give up fun if I have to commit to this, or I'm gonna have to give up maybe people thinking that I have it all figured out, or I'm gonna have to give up, you know, like, well, that's not you, that's Chief speaking through you. So you ain't come up with none of that. You got a mind of your own. But meanwhile, all of the rebuttals are found on the internet or on social media or on the headlines that have people clicking things that want them to now see what somebody else is saying, that they use just to say whatever they need to say. So ultimately, who is speaking through you? It's not about who's me. At least I can cite my source. Where is yours coming from? And the pride, though, starts to be like, oh, no, this is all me, and I'm going to still do it the way that I want to do it. And then all of a sudden, after everything has crumbled And sometimes people either have to be locked up, or some big thing happen that will like, okay, now I'm ready to listen. And yes, you can fix your roof when it's raining, but it's better to fix it when it's sunny outside. So take the time to address the pride and say, you know what, before I reach this having to be locked up or having to do so whatever the case may be that's going to having this big accident, let me go ahead and just address the pride now, so that therefore I can go where I don't care how long it's going to take me, but at least start to get back on the right path and tether and anchor myself to my soul. So I'm in it like that. Because,
Man, peace, everyone. I don't know what I could say what Akizak hasn't already said. You know, he's already said everything. Um, but what you did say, it ties into what I wanted to bring up as Chief was speaking in terms of one of the other movies that we had gone over, which was Spring, Summer, Winter, Fall, Spring. And the fact that his master was tethered to his creator, like he was tethered to his source, and he was teaching him from young how to move based on that tether, but he allowed him to feel um, that sort of shame. Like he allowed him to feel the elation of having control over the lives of these creatures that he was torturing. And then he also told him, okay, this is what you're going to do to fix it. And you're going to walk with that shame. And you're going to carry this in your heart forever. You know, if those animals didn't survive, you're going to carry that with you. And eventually he does stray from the path because he thought he knew better. And eventually his life was a mess. And he came back, but he came back with all of the it's almost the opposite of the sister from the movie from yesterday, where it's like she was gonna take it with her, the craziness with her. He was like, I'm gonna leave and bring craziness back. And his master was like, mm-mm, you ain't bringing that here. You know, this is what you're gonna do. And he put him to work carving, I think it was like a sutra inside of the wood, inside of the floorboard, and he had to go through a process of distilling that anger into these words that I'm assuming that the sutra that he was carving also gave him like insights into, okay, this is how this is what you should be meditating on right now. This is what you should be focusing on. You're so focused on the 50 miles an hour, you were going in the wrong direction. Now it's time to turn around and come back this way. And this is the process of doing that. And it's going to feel like it's extra hard because you made it harder on yourself. You know, you were at the starting point and you were told which direction to go and you went somewhere else. Now you have to backtrack back to your starting point and then go in the right direction. And again, it comes back to that ticking clock. It's like, how much time do I have left? But in a sense, it doesn't even matter. You know, you could count how much time you spent doing the wrong thing, or you could just stop and just do the right thing. And all that matters is you doing the right thing now, and doing the right thing now, and doing the right thing now, as opposed to you saying, well, if I shift to do the right thing now, how do I know I'll get to the end point? But it's just you don't need to worry about the end point. It's just what you're doing continually to keep yourself tethered. Like how the master was he was doing calligraphy on that piece of pottery, but he was writing it with water. You know, so him writing it with water too, he didn't have time to even admire his own work because it evaporated by the time he was done. You know, that's what was that's the image that came to mind as Chief was speaking, and then you kind of solidified it too, Akizak, when you were speaking just now.
and him like just having to sit him down, and I think he was doing that. He did that with a cat's tail, right, in the movie. like when he went and did the letters, and then he had him go behind him. But ultimately, like a couple things that stuck out when you just said that, it made me think was just having one slow things down. And I think when one is able to slow things down and able to put things in perspective, then now one is able to see really the mess that they've made. Right? Like I think it's one thing that Chief has said is for every mental mistake, there's a physical consequence. And I think that's one of the things that start to lead up to one having anxiety, one having depression, is building this facade of themselves that ultimately I have to project this persona out into the rest of the world. But ultimately, I know I haven't done anything to earn this or to, say that, yeah, I'm actually standing on a solid foundation. And now all of a sudden, somebody's going to have to either come along and give me a lesson to slow things down, or life is going to give me a lesson. There was an interview that I was watching one time with Mike Tyson. And one of the things that he said that came from him losing to Buster Douglas was he was able to let go of that persona that he felt like he had to be the winner all the time. And I had to do this. And it was like, all right, cool. Now everybody's not holding me to this standard of saying that you're going to win every time and only bet on this or whatever the case may be. And it just started making me think of how many times are we held captive to the money that maybe one is starting to bring in. One is held captive to, what they think they know. So then when they come into our now it's like, I'm not just going to say anything because everybody feels so further ahead than me, instead of me just saying, I don't know. Can you help me with this? Can you explain that? Small. And then you start to find out, though, even when you ask, majority of us don't know either. Right? And it'd be like the simplest things. But your pride starts to tell you, well, I don't want anybody else to know that I don't know something as basic as that. And I feel like I should know that. So I'm just not going to say anything, but not actually receive the help that I need. But then actually not looking at, well, maybe everybody else doesn't know this as well. Let me just ask this. Either you're going to get the answer or you're going to find out, oh, man, we all don't know. Okay, now I got to get a little comfortable in here. But it's a matter of, can one go beyond that? And there's a lot of that, and that goes back to even, was that spoken about love? We were talking about it yesterday. I don't know. Well, I think it was, but it was just a matter of, oh no, that was y'all talking about on Friday, of letting it just, removing those barriers of allowing love in, so that ultimately love doesn't change over time, but does change people, and it will start to change people if you allow it in. But if it's the barrier or the pride that keeps that from allowing one to let it in, well, then now you got to ask yourself, well, I guess that would be Satan, or satanic, of saying that I don't need to hear anything that anybody else got to tell me. I got this all figured out. I got it all mapped out. But then when it all fails, then that's when I want to hit Ask Osiris, or let me just get this. Give me an answer, and then I can go back to doing what I was doing. Just fix this one thing right here. Even though my relationship now has totally failed, and I've been ignoring the advice, because I come on here every now and then because I know there's a lot of game that's on here. So I can go back and I can say it, but then as soon as it goes in a different direction or somebody starts holding me to something, now all of a sudden they talking about they want to leave. Hey, hold on, let me get into it. Let me now get into a consultation with Chief so I can now figure out how to save it, as opposed to, why didn't you just do that from Jump Street so you built it on solid foundation, as opposed to waiting till everything fell off? And that's that pride of, no, I'm the one that ain't nobody gonna be in my house. I'm gonna be the one saying this. Man, this is not about that. This is about community living. This is about and knowing, just like when he said, it wasn't Yahweh Shah that said, hey, y'all come check me out, I'm gonna heal the sick and next week or whatever the case may be. This ain't about that. This is just about everybody making sure that they're walking and standing strong. And how does one walk and stand strong? One has to become that undifferentiated matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you ended it off. I see what you did there.
Yeah, with thievery. Ended it off a little plagiarism. Let's throw a little plagiarism in there to boot.
I was gonna put it back.
Just borrowed it.
Be like both of us. No.
Right.
Just keep it at my house.
Hey.
But you know what? Actually, that's a good point, and I'm not going to belabor it, but that is actually I remember years ago you kind of speaking to me about that, like, yo, Chief, this one is stealing your stuff, and that one's stealing your stuff, and and I would always be like, whatever, I ain't thinking about it, because that's part of where pride comes in too, because it's the same thing with the artificial information. You did not generate any of it. So even the things I teach, I didn't generate. It's insight that was I was allowed to peer into, that the creator graced me enough to say, hey, you come here, let me show you something. So for me to be like, oh, you stealing my stuff. How could you steal my stuff when I had my own personal experience and discovery? You can't steal that. You see, the information was already there before I was born. So that's sometimes we're like, that's an example of where pride can rear its head too, where you're hoarding knowledge, if you will, without realizing that it's public, it's been open, and you should be not so much just speaking about the knowledge, but see, that's the difference between the Tao, or the difference between Buddhism. Buddhism isn't a thought. Buddhism is an experience. The Tao is an experience. So I could speak to you about I'll tell you how I came to this knowledge. And that's a more profound conversation than me even telling you what the knowledge is. Because by telling you how I came to it, I'm giving honor to the creator who gave it to me. You see? So that's an example of like where pride can come in. I just thought about it just now when you were stealing my stuff. Yeah.
And that's like I said to the children. How more than you ask why. I can do this all day.
Right, exactly. You probably remember my stuff better than I do. So yeah, you probably could. You probably would win in this one.
Do this all day.
Yeah, you got that. You got it. Heck, I don't even remember the intro to Enlightenment Transformation. The Harubi, he got about the first 7 words. Then it becomes his after that. Then it's in the God's hands. But I don't even remember the part that he got.
Hey, well, you know the fruit by the tree. So if we connect to the tree.
Well, I'm just gonna, Master Menelik, did you want to add anything else? I thought I saw you. Okay. I just want to say thank you, Chief Yuya, and thank you, brothers, for jumping in and adding to the build. Of course, thank you, everyone, for sharing a level of vulnerability, even in the chat. I don't have a quote that I'm going to plagiarize. I did, however, pull a little snippet that I wanted to just close out with, and it's a snippet from the same. It's actually linked in the chat. It's the same. Oh my gosh, what am I talking about here? So it totally left my brain. Holy crap! What am I talking about? Let me just go to it.
Don't bring the Crips in this. They did nothing to you.
I'm trying not to say that. The other word. So pride and bloodline redemption. So I pulled a little snippet from that, and I wanted to just close out with it, because it's a part where she directly addresses us, Anu, and those who kind of sit on that fence. So with that, I'll close here and just say thank you so much, and just stay on and listen for a few minutes. All right. Let's see.
Thing that we're doing is practice. Your experience in our new is practice for paradise. There's some people who are too prideful to be here. That's the only thing that keeps you out. You think about it. If you think about anyone who was here and is not here or didn't make it in, just really think hard about why it didn't happen for them. And you're gonna find it's been the same thing every time. Pride. People can't be corrected. People are unwilling to be naked. You call them out on their stuff. All right, come on, pull these clothes off. Let's deal with it. Let's flush out these curses. that are active in your system. But height, haughtiness, thinks that you're raised up above everybody else. That's why it's so sickening. You see, in your mind, your pride says, "I'm haughty, I'm high," right? And there's scriptures around that with women too, but I didn't want to get.
Okay, so with that, I'll just say thank you. All have a beautiful, strong, and be well. Peace.